please welcome Laura Davis.
So, first of all, I am not from the state park system. I might look like it, but I'm not. My family and I, we've set goals every year to go and explore parts of Kentucky ever since we've moved here. The first year we did 50 hikes in 1 year, and I wrote a book. The second year we did 50 waterfalls. Then I did 50 arches, and then I went ahead and I did the state parks. So in 1 year, I went and visited all of the state parks and then created a photo album basically for my family. And tonight I'm going to tell you just a little bit about each of the state parks. Okay? So, let's see. Does this need to? Oh, okay. So my goal, as I explained, I wanted to go to every state park in 1 year, and I wanted to review them, and I wanted to take my family to have different experiences that we haven't had before. Whether it was playing golf, which didn't really go real well, or we rented a pontoon boat. So the idea behind my goal was I wanted to get to know Kentucky, but I also wanted to introduce my kids to some activities that maybe we normally don't do. And along the way, we took friends, we took other extended family. First of all, the first state parks were built in the early 1920s. The national government and the state governments recognized that we needed places for people to go have recreation. And so they started looking at land in Kentucky that would be a natural place that people might want to gravitate, either because of its history, the culture, or the geography that it has. And so the CCC, any of you older gentlemen, did you know about or were part of it, or had parents that were part of the CCC?
My father was a camp engineer and worked for the Forest Service in the early 30s.
Awesome. Will you just tell?
Camp engineer in the CCC.
Will you just tell us real quick what the CCC is?
Was big conservation corps. It just took young people, basically young people, give them a work, put them to work.
That's right.
And they built trails, built bridges, roads,
They did.
probably cabins, and
Yep.
what all.
Schools. Anybody else have family members that were part of the CCC? You did?
My grandfather.
Oh, how cool. So this was part of the New Deal that Franklin Roosevelt put out, and that was to give young men who are unemployed between the ages of 18 and 25 a chance to have a job, plus to learn some skills and to improve our state. And this was throughout all of the United States, not just in Kentucky. At the height of it, we had 80,000 men that were enrolled here in Kentucky in the CCC. They were paid $30 a month, but 25 of it was automatically deducted and sent home to take care of the families.
Great.
So, but I did find a couple of really cool pictures. This one is from Cumberland Falls. That's Mammoth Cave. It's not a state park, but I just thought it was a cool picture. And then just a few other ones. And if you look online, there are a lot of pictures that talk about the CCC, and some of these gentlemen would even get together when they were older and go back to the places that they worked. So some of our first state parks were actually designed, created, built by the CCC. Okay, so here are a few things that are still remnants. When we were hiking some of the trails, these were things that were still there after all of these years. Do you recognize that one?
Yeah, we were general, but
Okay. The state parks are actually divided into 3 different regions, and I have for you tonight a map, and I'm going to hand this out, or have somebody hand this out. And inside, this is the new map because we're celebrating 100 years. Inside, you'll be able to see that there is a map of all of the state parks. Okay, so now that you've looked at your maps, we're going to go through the different regions. Kentucky is so unique because all three parts of Kentucky, the center, the eastern, the western, it's so diverse, okay? So if you're looking at the western Kentucky, you're gonna have the big lakes. Land between the lakes, there are 4 state parks that actually go around that big body of water. The trails are gonna be flatter there. You're gonna have some Civil War history over at Columbus, Belmont, those types of areas. But for the most part, the hiking there is fairly flat, okay?
Nice.
It's just Penn Lake,
Fairly wet too.
Yeah.
very wet over there, yeah. They do have a biking trail across that bridge if you're into biking. That was fun. Okay,
Is that Ignorant Spring Bridge, or do you know?
No, it's not.
it is the one that is right by Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah.
And I think it's called Lake Barkley Bridge or something, because that is Lake Barkley right there. So in central Kentucky, you're gonna have more of the grassy pastures, a lot of Daniel Boone history, like Blue Licks, over here at Fort Boonesboro. They have more streams, they do have some lakes, but you're not gonna get the big waterways in the western portion. We have a lot of early Kentucky settlements and golf. There are a lot of golf courses here in the center, so we are considered central Kentucky. You go to Blue Licks Battlefield, you can walk down to the Licking River. I always have to get pictures and videos of the rivers. And then eastern Kentucky is rugged mountains, dense forests. They have all of the great rock formations, the caves. So that would be the Red River Gorge, Natural Bridge, and it's got the Appalachian heritage and the history that goes along with that. So from that, depending on what you want to see, you would look at your map and say, I'm really into hiking. You would want to go over to Kentucky, the eastern Kentucky. Now, you can actually go to that one where I took that sunset, and you can drive and just park there. So there are some places that are family friendly, wheelchair accessible, even in the rugged mountains of eastern Kentucky. And this, you can drive right to that view. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? It's on the very edge. Okay, so some of the activities, and this is not all of them, but a lot of our state parks have boat rentals and marinas. Some of our state parks are for non-motorized boats, and so Carter Caves has a really small little lake that was, I mean, we canoed on it, but it was all right. Grayson Lake, you can do both. Grayson Lake has an amazing grotto that you can only get to by kayak or canoe. We took our canoe on Taylorsville Lake, and they had some areas where the bigger boats can't go, and so they were like wildlife sanctuaries. So, little hidden treasure there. Some of our state parks have cottages. These cottages are 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and they do have a 1 bedroom with a loft, which is like a 2 bedroom. Some of them are wheelchair accessible. Most of them will have screened in porches, which makes it really nice for meals. What I will say is they haven't been updated in a while. So,
Primitive.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Some of the
Rustic.
furniture was from
Yes.
the 70s.
Yes, yeah.
And some of them were cleaner than others. We have stayed at several of them. The kitchens, some of them are well stocked with pots and pans, and some of them, well, it looks like what campers left and they just threw in the drawers. So, that's what I'll say about those. Just the inside of one of them. There are lodge rooms, and again, some of them have been upgraded and some of them just feel like a motel, depending on which state park it is. If you stay in the lodge rooms, then it's like staying at a hotel. You have your own bedroom, you have your own bathroom, And then there are a lot of common areas where you can play games. Most of them have a gift shop. A lot of them have a restaurant that will be open only certain hours since COVID. So they've changed that up a lot. Camping, people like camping. Some people glamp, some people camp, and some people have RVs. Each state park that offers camping, you really need to call and ask, what do you provide? This one here at Kingdom Come, they called it Primitive. It was right on the edge of the gravel road, and our tent is too big for the platform that they've put there. They also had no running water.
Oh,
And so even in their regular campground, they didn't have RVs, they just had other tent camping. They have no running water there. So if you want to camp at some of the state parks, you need to know in advance, what do I need to bring for my own supplies? Pretty though, right? Okay. Hey, we have a state park that you can camp for $10 with your airplane.
That's your airplane?
No.
the airplane's included in the $10.
Yes, I thought it was really funny. They have a runway and they actually had a guy camping out there, and I hope he didn't think I was stalking him as I came to take a picture, but
You better hope they don't miss the runway.
that's right. So I thought that was pretty cool. We have caving and spelunking. Does anybody know the difference between the two?
I think spelunking is when you like rappel down.
Good guess.
But that's not.
It's actually a super fun word, and it's when you're just going in by yourself to discover.
Oh.
Caving is more when you're going to go in with a tour or you're going to map out a cave. So Carter Caves offers both. You can pay for a tour on the right hand side, or you can be like us and you can go spelunking. Now, if you choose to do that, they do ask that you sign in at the visitor center
Yes.
so that they know who's in there.
Right.
And then you sign out, but there is not a fee to do that. That's my daughter. She finds water, she's in it. Doesn't matter what
Very
time of year.
queenly wave though.
That's right.
And if it rains, you need to get out of that cave.
Yes, they will
Yeah,
not let
we've
you
been
in.
there.
Have you been
Done
in there?
that.
Yeah.
It was raining cats and dogs, we had to get out.
They will not let you in now, so. Fishing. Okay, I've not fished in Kentucky,
That's a huge
but this
fish.
man did,
That's like,
and he caught a really big fish.
that's a catfish. I think it's.
Yes, it is.
So we do have some great state parks that really do have a lot of fishing. They stock them. They are known throughout the United States for being great fishing places. We just aren't very lucky, so we don't fish. Here's golf. Some of our state parks are just golfing places, okay? So I went with Kathy Lee here. I had to do something at the park. That's General Burnside Island. And so I hit my first bucket of golf balls, not very well, but I did play in that park.
Davis first. 1, 2, 3.
There we go now.
The form was nice.
1, 2, 3.
There you
That
go.
form was nice.
We don't even know where it went, but it went somewhere. So even if you don't golf, you can still have fun in the parks. This specific park, it is basically just the golf course, and then a few motorhome camping spots. Miniature golf you'll find at most of the resort parks. The quality of the miniature golf depends on the park.
Yeah.
And so Carter Caves, that was one of our favorite ones. It has great obstacles that represent the actual Carter Cave State Park. So they have a cave to go through and they have a helmet to go through, and it was very well taken care of. And Dr. Thomas Walker, which is a historic site, that one also, he was so proud of his golf course.
Oh.
And you can tell he takes really good care of the course.
Yeah.
So hiking, I will hike anywhere. So I got lots of hiking pictures, but our state parks, some of the hiking ones are wheelchair accessible, stroller accessible, and then you can find some that are not within that same state park. And if you go at any different season, the view changes every time you go. And you can cheat at Natural Bridge.
That sounds
If
delightful.
you got $15, you can ride it.
That's
Yes.
right. It was my birthday.
Yay!
So he said,
Happy
let's,
birthday.
he said, let's take that, and I was like, it's cheating, but we did
Oh.
go down it.
I have a question about Natural Bridge.
Yeah.
Is there any other way up besides that? Because
Yes.
that is terrifying.
They have
And
a
we're
lot of,
walking.
they have a lot of different trails in there, and when you go there, if you stop where you pay to go on this, they will have a trail map, and you can say, I want to do this many miles, and they'll actually highlight it for you. So, yeah.
The most direct trail to the bridge starts behind the lodge, and it's 45 minutes straight up. And straight to back is worse than going up.
Yep. My
There's a
kids
nature
skipped the whole
preserve
way.
there too,
I was exhausted.
and that one is a lot more steady, and then you lead up there, and it starts over behind the golf course.
Okay, cause I saw somebody up there with like a walker, and I'm looking at
Yeah.
it going, how did you get
Yeah,
here?
right.
You're like, I couldn't talk from the
Yeah.
bottom, right?
And then when you get there are a couple of short hikes right along the top that you can do.
My wife's homemakers club took a trip to Natural Bridge. Bunch of little old ladies,
Aw.
70 and 80 years old, and when they got up there, they scrambled around and found where their boyfriends had carved their initials. Because they'd come
Wow,
up there to court
that is great,
50
that's
years ago or
awesome.
more.
That is so fun. Horseback riding, Taylorsville Lake has 24 miles dedicated to horseback riding or mountain biking. I don't think I do either or together. They do have some short trails, but that one is known for its horseback riding. A few of the state parks, they will during the summer have rentals that you can do. Ah, I bumped it to swimming. You can swim in some of the lakes. Ken Lake has an amazing swimming pool. Some of the other resorts have swimming pools. The only one with an indoor pool is Lake Cumberland, and they have a very nice indoor pool. Tennis courts. This was the nicest one we found. Most of them really, you're not gonna play tennis on them. They're not well taken care of. One of the state parks actually put picnic benches on the tennis courts because they weren't gonna fix them. But my old Kentucky home, that was a fairly good one. And then pickleball is at our urban state park, E.P. Tom Sawyer, which, do you know what an urban state park is?
In the middle of the city.
In the middle of the city, and they offer totally different things than if you're out in the country. So this is an indoor pickleball court. They also have a ton of them outdoors.
What town?
Louisville,
Big fan.
yeah. And we'll get through, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about each state park. So here we have Melody, first time hitting the tennis ball. They were surprised.
That's what these things do.
Every one of the state parks has pretty much a park facility, and that is something that the state has maintained. And so as our kids went through them, they always commented, this is a great park. And so this one over here is at Old Fort Herod, and that was the top-notch one, according to my daughter. Picnicking, every park has a picnic table. Some of them are a little more random. Columbus Belmont actually has a quickie dog stand, and my husband here said, the only thing about it is he only ate one, he wanted two, so. Geocaching, some people are into it, not many of the state parks have geocaching. That's where treasures are found and you use coordinates and you try and find whatever it is. So here she found the 2 boxes. You sign your name and you hide it back for the next person. Disc golf is something that we tried as a family. It's kind of like golf for me. I wasn't very good. Some of the state parks no longer maintain their golf course, so they've put up disc golf, which makes that a really long trail. We did one at Lake Cumberland, and it was over 2 miles because you're walking up and down the whole golf course. Well, plus we were bad at it, so I added that.
And we didn't get it in for ice cream.
It takes just ice cream to entertain the kids. Okay, most of the state parks have basketball courts. I question the one in the middle. And it actually is on the end of a trail. You can hike to it. You can't actually pull over and see it, but it's listed on their trail map as wilderness basketball. So, thought that was unique. A couple of the nature parks have interpretive nature walks, and that's where they'll have signs and you use your phone and you can read what it's all about. Most of them aren't kept up, so they say they have them, but they really don't work well. So.
What does interpretive trail mean?
That you can go and you can read the number and it will tell you what you're looking at. It'll give
Okay.
you the history or the plant that you're looking at.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. A lot of them have educational programs. I actually called Blue Licks. I homeschool, and I called and said, hey, would you do a field trip for homeschoolers? And so they had the state park person and the nature preserve guy come out and give us a tour. And then some of them just have regular programs during the summer because they're trying to get families to come out. And so they'll do guided tours. This gal on the right, she had her little animals out. I stayed pretty far away, but my daughter did not. A lot of history. Our state parks, the first half of our state parks were really based around historical places. So you'll be able to see museums, you'll be able to see remnants or replicas of things. If you go to Greenbow, they still have one of the old furnaces that they did salt brine in,
What is salt brine?
where they were taking the salt out of the river and stuff, and then they push it into cakes and they sell it so they can do meat. So, like a lot of our rivers had salt in it, and they would come from great
It's
distance to
Salt
get
Lake,
that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Salt Lake, rather.
Mm-hmm. So we have that. Okay, so I'm gonna real quick just go through the state parks. In 1924, Pine Mountain was started, and Pine Mountain, the land there was donated by citizens. So if you
Okay,
think
wow.
about how precious land is, these were people who really cared about maintaining a place for people to go. And then it was originally named Cumberland State Park, but when Cumberland Falls opened, they renamed it.
Okay. But what is the chain?
That
number?
chain?
Yeah, thank you.
That chain was added in the 1930s. It's 110 feet. This is like the iconic picture, okay? It holds the boulder to the mountain so it doesn't swing down on the town below and crush the people.
Oh,
And so they actually put it up.
so it's not a tightrope.
No, it's not. And you can
Could
go
be.
you can go to both sides, but it has signs. Do not tightrope.
Right.
So
That's
anyhow,
just
that
an
is
invitation.
this is an iconic place that people who know Pine Mountain, that's the picture you'll see them with their boots sitting there. Natural Bridge. Do you know what Natural Bridge was before it was a state park?
Shot
The
tower.
railroad started it.
Railroad started it.
That's
You're
right.
smart. Yeah. It was actually in the 1895, it was owned by the Lexington Railroad, and it was a tourist attraction already. And then the state came in and purchased it. Now, the iconic part of that is we have a natural bridge, okay? And most of us have been there. But I'm gonna tell you a little secret. It's not a bridge. It's an arch.
Arch, yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it an arch and not a bridge?
Doesn't go over water.
Correct.
Oh.
To be a bridge, it has to have had water that created this. This was not created by water, but it was named before geologists came to Kentucky and said, no. So they left it as
Well, they
is.
know.
This is a really great park. If you have a family that has all different levels of activity, you can hike here. They've got camping, they've got the lodge, you can go to the restaurant, they have a swimming pool. This is really one of our better state parks, and it's the one that's known to other people outside of Kentucky.
Don't forget Hoedown Island.
That's right, Hoedown Island, which
They
is
have
really cool.
Square dancing down there on the weekend.
And they still do have
Really?
that. Yes, they
Oh,
do.
it's lovely.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cute.
that's pretty.
Old Fort Herod State Park, that's located in Harrodsburg. It was originally called Pioneer Memorial State Park. And this one is It's a working fort, it's only open on certain hours, but there are other things you can go see. They
Wait,
have,
Laura, I'm sorry, what do you mean by a working fort?
it's kinda like Boonesboro where you can pay
Oh,
to get
okay,
in and
okay.
they actually
And they
are
have an
doing
entrance,
stuff, yeah.
okay.
They also have here the Pioneer Cemetery where over 500 early settlers are buried. And so it's a really cool place to go. There's a church there where Lincoln's parents were married. So even if you can't get into the fort, they do have a lot of history there that, if you're interested in that kind of history.
She had a question.
Blue Licks Battlefield.
Laura, she had a question.
Oh, sorry, who had a question?
Oh, I was gonna say, they're having an anniversary, we were down there a couple of weeks ago when they were doing special pictures and
Oh,
celebrating, I think it's over 250 years or something.
well,
At Fort Hood.
well, probably of the fort then, yeah, maybe not of the state park. That's really cool to know.
That's 72nd.
Yes, it is, yes.
So Blue Licks Battlefield, that's not far from here, that's just in Carlisle. This was the final place for the Battle of the Revolutionary War. A lot of people don't know that. The Revolutionary War stopped, but by the time they got news over here to Blue Licks, they were still fighting.
Right.
So that made it the battle. In this time period, now this one doesn't have a lot of things to go and see. They do have a museum, they do have some monuments, they do have a couple of hiking things. But in its heyday, that was one of the busiest settlements here in Kentucky. And it was because people went there to get the salt, and Daniel Boone was there. He had his own company of people. In fact, that's where he was kidnapped by the Indians, and he ended up living with the Indians and being adopted by Chief Blackfish. He learned their ways. He became the son of Chief Blackfish, and then when he heard that Fort Boonesboro was going to be attacked by this group, he actually broke free and he, on foot, came over here to Fort Boonesboro. It only took him 4 days to get here, and he warned his people, because that's where he was living before. So it does have a lot of history, especially if you like early Kentucky history. The museum's only open on, I think, Mondays, so check those things out before you go. Cumberland Falls State Park, we know that is Niagara of the South, and this is rich in Civil War history as well. That land used to be a Civil War hospital, and after that it became a tourist attraction, and they opened up a big resort, not the resort that's there. And then the government came in and said, wow, we could buy this land and we could do, hydroelectric power. So it became this big political battle between the citizens and the government. And in the end, the DuPont family donated that land. And it was written in that they had to use it for conservation purposes only. So the falls are 120 feet wide. They're 68 feet tall. It's the second largest waterfall east of the Rocky Mountains. It's also one of the only places that you can see a moonbow.
What is it?
Have you seen the moonbow?
Yeah.
We were there till 1 a.m. freezing our buns off in an October morning
Yep.
and never saw the darn thing.
Yep.
It only happens, I think, when the moon's 43 degrees above the horizon on a certain date, certain
Yep.
angle.
Yep.
I think once or twice a year.
A couple of times a year, and it's actually listed online if you want to go to the next one, but everything has to be perfect.
Personally, I think it's a scam just to get you to come down.
So that's kind of the one that a lot of people do come to. And this state park, again, has a lot of amenities. It's a great place for families because the park itself, right here by the falls, all of that is wheelchair accessible, stroller accessible. You can do harder hikes, or you can stay right here where they do have a lot of touristy things. You can mine for gold in one of their little exhibits and stuff. So then we have General Butler State Park, that's in Carrollton. And this was named after General William Orlando Butler. He fought in the War of 1812 and the Mexican-American War. This one used to have a ski lift. Did anybody ever go there when there was a ski lift?
think
You
it's-
did?
It's
Okay.
a little askew, yeah.
They took it down in 1998, but you can still see
We were there
remnants
before.
of it when you go hiking. And you can see a lot of the CCC, different places that they built for the view. You can overlook the river and that type of stuff. This one has a lot of history. It does have a cemetery there. It also has a mini golf course. Now, if you go play mini golf there, I would suggest you take your own colored ball, because we had 4 of us, and the only color they give you is white. And when you're playing mini golf, it's a little hard to keep track of your
Didn't
white
they have
ball.
little numbers on them?
They didn't have anything on them, and the guy said, "We just collect these from other people who play golf in the area. So take your own ball or put
Take your
some."
magic marker,
That's
put your
right.
own number.
Right.
That's right. All right, so Lincoln Homestead. This is a unique park. It's really small, and if you
I've
love
been there.
golfing, then you probably could go to that park and enjoy it. But it does have a few replica places. Lincoln lived there for a very short time when he was young. They do have a small little museum, but their hours are just really small. So check those out. They had, I don't know, they had frisbee golf there. To me, it felt more just like a community park that they put State Park on the sign. So somebody mentioned Columbus Belmont. That is located on the very far western corner, and it is over where the Mississippi and the Ohio River go, and it is huge in history for the Civil War. This was the place where Ulysses S. Grant had his first battle. It was a land battle and a water battle. And so that anchor actually is one of the anchors that was used. They embedded these 2 anchors across the river, and then they had this long chain. And the idea was that they were going to stop the boats from going because they'd get caught on that chain, but the flow of the river was too great, and that didn't really work. Both sides felt that they won this war. So when you go there, if you are teaching children about the Civil War, this is a really great place to go. They have an amazing museum, and the guy there, Charles, does a fantastic job of really telling you so that you understand not just the dates, but about the people who lived there and the battles that happened. They still have the earthenworks there too that you can go through.
My name is Carlisle, and it is in Carlisle County.
Okay, have you been there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, did you like it?
One of the 4 counties that stack up against the Mississippi River.
Very good. It's a clean park. The people were all very friendly. It's way out there, but it's worth a day trip or an overnight trip if you really are into that kind of history. And there are several state parks over there. John James Audubon, do you know what he was known for?
Bird pictures.
Bird pictures. This is in Henderson, Kentucky, and he spent a lot of time there studying the animals, the birds, and so they named the state park after him.
So that's not his home or anything?
That's
Okay.
actually one of the museum areas. So this state park took 54 years to complete
Wow.
because of 2 things. First of all, World War II interrupted a lot of building of things, but also people were arguing about what the park should look like. What do we want this to be? So it took a long time to get that established. This is a really fun place. The museum is free on certain days of the week, and it actually has some really great things to see. I'm not into museums, by the way. That's not my thing. I like nature, but I did enjoy this museum. They have some trails that lead around to a small lake, and it's a bird habitat down there. And when we were down there, we had our bird listening device out. We could hear 7, 8, 9 different kind of bird calls at any given time. So it's kind of a fun place. The hiking is not, like, I'm into really nice, fun views. This is an easier hike. Some of it's asphalt, some of it is bridges and wooded paths. But it is a great place to go for different levels of family activity. they do have other things to do there as well, camping, which it's right on a busy road. I wouldn't suggest camping. My old Kentucky Home State Park. Who can tell me what happens there every summer?
They have a Stephen Foster story.
That's right, the Stephen Foster story, which is the outdoor musical about Stephen Foster. He was the one who wrote My Old Kentucky Home song. And so that runs during summer. It's one of the longest running outdoor musicals in the United States.
Laura, sorry.
Yeah,
To the left of that photograph, underneath the tree that you can just see, is a family cemetery. And in that cemetery is a whole row of infant graves, all of which have the date 1838 on them, which I believe was a yellow fever epidemic.
oh, wow,
So you can really
yeah.
tell part of the story by looking at things like that.
Yeah, also this one has another story much like this. It is the story of the enslaved people. And so there is a walk that you go on, and they have marquees that talk about how much these people made or how much they were sold for. And they actually have some pictures. And so as I'm teaching my daughter, she went to this one last year, but we're now coming into the Civil War period. I will take her back there now that it's more relevant to her, because this is a very historical park to go to. And a lot of people go for the musical. I haven't been there. They have other things. They have a golf course. They have tennis courts. They have some other touristy things. But really, most people go for the history and for the performance.
10 minutes.
Carter Caves, we talked about. That is one of our best state parks. It has something
Like
for
it's
everybody. Yeah, it's got a pool, it's got a lot of hiking. This is Smoky Bridge, and it is the biggest natural bridge in Kentucky. It's really wide. They have 4 bridges there, natural arches. No, they have 2 bridges and 3 natural arches. But it's a nice place to camp, and it's a nice place to take your family. It's not very far. It's up in Olive Hill. That was also donated land. 945 acres of that was donated to get it started. And I just think to myself, land is so precious, yet these people gave it up for others to enjoy. Kentucky Dam Village, that one was started because they wanted to put the Kentucky Dam in. They wanted to help with the flooding on the Ohio and Mississippi River, and they wanted to also have some hydroelectric power. So they actually built a motel, and the CCC stayed there for 6 years working on it, and then they turned it into a resort after that. And when you look at it, it looks like a motel, but you can tell that they have upped. The cottages are really nice there. They have a great marina. We rented pontoons there a couple of times this last year. So they took something that they were already using and they made it into a great place to visit. Kentucky Lake, or Ken Lake State Park. This one's interesting. This is the combination of 2 state parks, Kentucky Lake State Park and Cherokee State Park. One was an all-white and one was a black only, and they're next to each other. And so when segregation ended, they combined the 2 parks. Part of it now, the college that's down there, they took part of Cherokee Park, but the rest of it was absorbed and they renamed it Ken Lake. So it's a really nice state park, but it is older. It's one of our older ones that hasn't been updated, but it is clean. People were very friendly. It was also the place where our tornado families from Mayfield and that area, they lived in these state parks for about a year.
Wow.
So Lake Cumberland, this is, let's see, this is the Jamestown area. This is nicknamed the houseboat capital of the world.
Yep.
Has over 1,200 miles of shoreline, and it's considered some of the finest fishing in the eastern United States. Now, we stayed there. The cottages need updating, but a lot of them did. They have great hiking to this point of the mountain right here. Really, you go for this one for the lake. Pennyrile State Park, it was 2 state parks as well. It was Pennyrile and Dawson Springs. And they combined those into one state park. It's a little tiny lake. It does have a nice beach. The hiking, I ran into a hunter when I was hiking. It's the only time that a hunter was out with his gun.
You shouldn't have been in a state park.
I researched that. There are times that you can be in a state
Okay.
park. Yeah, you have to just sign in.
Pennyrile is though a state resort park,
Yes.
which means it also has a golf course, and
Mhm.
it has eating facilities and dining and lodging facilities.
It does, and we stayed in that one, and that one is nice. Like, I felt like the lodge was upgraded. The hiking wasn't great, but the lodge was upgraded. A lot of the land was taken away. The government took the land from the locals, and as I talked to the people who still live there, there's still a little hostility
Should be.
because that was their family land.
Yeah.
Jenny Wiley State Park, again, this was a place that we had flood families, so when I went here, the flood families were still living there, and so I didn't really do much. There's an eatery there, it's camping and boating, basically. General Burnside, the only thing there is golf, and then there are a few places where you can take your RV. But it is the only state park that is an island. Rough River Dam,
Jenny Wiley is also a state resort park.
yes, yeah. Rough River Dam, was rough. That's all I gotta say about that. They had caution
Aptly
tape
named.
everywhere,
Oh.
things were broken, we stayed there. I think most people just go for the boating, but that one really does need to be redone. Kingdom Come State Park we talked about, that is over, on the far side in the western part. It's located at the top of Pine Mountain, and it was named after the best-selling novel, The Little Shepherd of Kingdom Come.
Oh.
And that book is about a young boy who was an orphan, and he wandered around the Appalachian Mountains until he found a new family. It's not a true story, but it was based off of historical things. Lake Malone, somebody mentioned they didn't know about that one. Lake Malone is in the middle of nowhere, really. It's down Dunbar. It's known as Angler's Delight. Again, it's a boating one, a fishing one. The land was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Wallace Malone. It's home to the Big Trees. So they have 6 of these big, huge figures, and each one has a question how to get kids more involved in nature.
Oh.
And you hike on a trail to go find those. Kincaid Lake is a cute little gem up north, and it was originally called Falmouth State Park. Local citizens raised the money to have that park. It's a little lake, it's about 183 acres, it's perfect for a canoe or a kayak. They do have a pool, they do have a few little hiking trails, but no elevation there. It's up north, so it's more flat. Fort Boonesborough, just in our own backyard. That's where Daniel Boone had his settlement. You can go here during the summer and on holiday weekends and such, and you can see reenactments. It used to be the second largest settlement in Kentucky, which is hard to believe now, because really, this fort is not in the original place. It used to be right along the river, but it kept getting flooded,
Right.
so they rebuilt it higher up. Fort Boonesborough has been flooded many times. They finally took down the beach area. The pool doesn't work. I heard today that they may be trying to have Parks and Rec open that back up. Lake Barkley. Now Lake Barkley was started because, with that dam, they thought they could get more tourists down there. So they opened up another resort down there, but there aren't great roads to come into that area, so that area never built up like it was anticipated to. Again, it's a beautiful lake to boat on, and it does have a sandy beach, and it does have resort type things to do. So it's worth checking out if you're into those things.
And it's adjacent to the LVL, which has lots of stuff to do,
Yes, land between the lakes, indeed.
including Bison and Elk.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And that whole corner down there are 4 state parks and then land between the lakes. Barren River State Park is very barren. Okay, it was redeemed by that sunset. It is really, again, it is for fishing. Their resort and their cottages were really run down when we went. Some of the roofs were caved in, trees were, it looked like they just had a tornado.
Did they?
No,
Oh.
but,
I was hoping.
at one time of the year, the river's really low, and then in the summer it comes back, and it does have really great fishing there. Green River,
And it's
Is-
horseback riding also, you spoke of that a while ago.
that one does, yes. Green River is really a fun little paradise. It's got great camping,
Over there.
if you have RVs, and it has a great lake. So, 1,300 forested acres of land, 8,200 acre lake, 200 boat slots. It's ranked the #1 camping park in Kentucky. It's a busy one. So we just played in the lake when we were there.
Go down there for that apple thing.
Greenbow, this is a hidden gem. Have you been to Greenbow?
No.
Okay, you have? This is a beautiful little place. It's up in Greenup, and it's the 3rd largest state park that you've never heard of, okay? It was originally a local park. It got its name from the 2 counties that oversaw it, Greenup and Boyd. And when you go up here, you're gonna get a lot of Civil War history. This is where they had 19 blast furnaces. They have a great museum about the history of the area, a fun little lake to hike around, and this is one I will take my grandkids to when they come visit. They have a water park that's open to the public as well as the resort people there.
Oh,
So, people don't know about it, that's why I call it a little hidden gem.
The grotto.
Yes, I have a picture of it coming up.
Oh.
So this one again, this state park is golf and boating. There's one hiking trail, it's medium. Then we have Buckhorn Lake, and that one was started when the Army Corps of Engineers dammed up Middle Fork. People here are very upset still because that used to be the town of Bowlingtown, or Bowlington, however you pronounced it. In 1956, they gave landowners 10 cents an acre,
Oh.
and then they flooded it. They moved local cemeteries, and one of the cemeteries is now on an island that you can only get to by boat, except for when the river's low and the road passes. So if you talk to locals here, they're still a little upset. And there is a museum in the state park that talks about all of that, has pictures. Again, it's a boating one. E.P. Tom Sawyer is our only urban park. It has some amazing fun things. It was named after Diane Sawyer's father, and his name was Urban Powers. He was killed, Urban Powers Tom Sawyer. He was killed on I-64. He was the Jefferson County Judge Executive. If you're ever in the area, this is a must-see. It really is a fun park. It has all kinds of things, like you can fly model airplanes. They have one of those courses where you look at your coordinates and then you go throughout the park and they'll have a little thing to read. It has pickleball, it has playgrounds, it has a swimming pool. So it's not a resort, but it's a really great urban place that if you're going through there and you need a little green space, jump out of your car and do that one. Taylorsville Lake I talked to you about already. It's outside of Louisville. It's a 3,000 acre man-made lake. It was dammed up the Salt River. It's got 24 miles of trails for horses and bikers. It's mostly just a boating and horse park. Paintsville Lake. This, again, the 2 main things are camping and boating. There is a mountain home place that will, it's a museum for 19th century living history. but it was closed when we went. Unless you're a golfer, you can skip Mineral Mound. The only thing there is the golf course.
Okay.
And this land was owned by F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife's grandfather. But locals will say this was a political deal, and so, for some reason, we have a state park that all it is a golf course.
Where is it?
That one is right by Lake Barkley.
Okay.
Yeah, it's down in that area. It is championship golf though, and they do have a pro shop. So, Yatesville Lake, that one is neat because it's in two parts. The state park is actually 12 miles apart from each other. So you camp over here, and you've got your marina over here. And it's a windy 12 miles. But it was established as part of the Flood Control Act of 1965. There is a really nice 9/11 memorial outside of the marina area. And it has, some really pretty things to see there. Nolan Lake, this is in the Mammoth Cave area. It was created by the impoundment of Nolan River. It's one of the top 5 lakes in Kentucky for catfish, bass, walleye, and it's next to Tailwater Recreation Area, which is a really cool little park too, where you can see the tailwater of the dam. So again, not much for us to do. We don't have a boat, but we did check it out. Carr Creek, I'm not really sure why it's a state park, but it is. It's nicknamed the Kentucky Wetlands. It's 29-acre park. It was named after a long hunter named William Carr. And coal and timber was really what drove people to this area. But again, this is a boating one. They say it's the longest sandy beach in Kentucky. So we did play at that, but really, we didn't do much playing in that park. And then the last one is Dale Hollow, and this one is a really nice one. It's on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. In fact, when you look out over the lake, you can see Tennessee. And it's very updated. It is a resort. It does have a pool. It does have camping, mini golf. It has a regular golf course. And because it's one of the newer ones, it feels like it's a newer one. It's more upgraded. And then just a few last things before I let you go. Some of our state parks have portions of it that are nature preserves. And they're trying to preserve different things, and here are 3 examples. Here are our favorite activities, which I kind of told you about. And then just a few little videos.
Hey, you.
Goodbye.
What did you say?
About the goldfish. Goldfish, he came up to our bag and took our goldfish.
And Tiger Bar.
Niagara Falls, Cumberland Falls.
Yeah. She just skipped rocks.
Didn't skip.
Skipping rocks.
Laughing at you.
It's beautiful, even if you have to come up with what to play. This is the grotto I told you about. You can only get to that with a kayak or a canoe. And it's 6 miles round trip. It's not a bad paddle at all. It's so pretty. A lot of wildlife in our state parks. They're not really wild, I suppose.
They don't look very scared of you.
Not very old.
And you just can't pass up a mountain hike in the autumn.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And sunset at Pine Mountain. And that's my favorite picture. Sorry I took so long. There's just a lot of parts.
What can you